Okay, so picture this. It's Halloween night, and instead of, kids dressed as superheroes ringing your doorbell, you're facing ancient Celts just desperately trying to avoid being spirited away by fairies.
Yeah,
It sounds a little different from the Halloween we know, right?
it is incredible how much of our modern Halloween is actually rooted in these ancient fears and beliefs. Like,
Yeah.
we think it's all about, the candy and the costumes, but really it's about something much deeper. It's about humanity's age-old relationship with the unknown, with life and death, with those things that go bump in the night.
That's precisely what we're going to unpack in this deep dive.
Yeah.
You shared an episode of NPR's Throughline with us, and we're going to trace the evolution of Halloween all the way back to its origins in ancient Ireland to its global celebration today.
And you're in for some surprises. I think this episode really is full of expert interviews and historical anecdotes that really paint a vivid picture of how Halloween has changed over the centuries.
Okay, so let's rewind about 2,000 years and journey back to ancient Ireland. This is where it all began with the Celtic festival of Samhain. What can you tell us about this festival?
So Samhain was a pivotal moment in the Celtic year. It marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, a time associated with darkness and death. But it was also a time when the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead was believed to be at its thinnest.
So it wasn't just about cozying up for the winter, it was about a very real and perhaps frightening spiritual shift.
Yeah, exactly. The Celts believed that spirits could cross over during Samhain, and not all of these spirits were, friendly ancestral ones. They feared malevolent beings like fairies, particularly the banshee.
When I hear fairy, I think Tinkerbell,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling the banshee wasn't quite so whimsical.
Yeah, you're right to think that in Celtic lore, the banshee is this eerie, ethereal figure, a female spirit whose wailing cries were said to herald death.
Wow.
Imagine encountering that on Halloween night.
Yeah, it makes our modern-day haunted houses seem pretty tame in comparison.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did the Celts deal with this blurring of worlds during Samhain?
They took it very seriously. They would wear costumes, often animal skins or monstrous disguises, as a way to ward off these dangerous spirits. And of course, they made offerings of food and drink to appease them.
That's fascinating. So in a way, we can trace our Halloween costumes and treats all the way back to these ancient practices of survival, of trying to placate these powerful supernatural forces.
Yeah, and it really makes you think about how even our seemingly lighthearted traditions have these deep historical roots. Think about those jack-o'-lanterns we carve, the act of dressing up, even the tradition of trick-or-treating. They all echo those ancient attempts to navigate the blurry line between our world and the spirit world.
Now let's fast forward a few centuries. The Catholic Church arrives in Ireland, and they're not exactly thrilled with these pagan celebrations.
Yeah.
But instead of banning Samhain outright, they took a different approach.
That's right. They decided to co-opt Samhain by establishing All Saints' Day on November 1st and All Souls' Day on November 2nd. It was a brilliant tactic, really. They kept the date, added some saints into the mix, and essentially absorbed Samhain into the Christian calendar.
A clever way to blend existing traditions with their own beliefs and try to convert the pagan population. But those pagan roots didn't disappear overnight, did they?
Not at all. One example is the practice of souling that emerged around the 11th century. People would go door to door offering prayers for souls trapped in purgatory in exchange for soul cakes, a simple type of sweet treat. Sound familiar?
It's like trick-or-treating, but instead of candy, you're offering prayers for someone's deceased relatives. It's a very different kind of transaction. But it does show how those older traditions persisted even as the holiday was being reshaped.
Exactly. This fusion of pagan and Christian elements is key to understanding how Halloween continued to evolve. It adapted to new influences while retaining those echoes of its ancient past.
Okay, so we've got the ancient Celts, their beliefs about spirits, the church's influence, and this souling practice that's a precursor to trick-or-treating Halloween is already quite the mix, even at this point in history.
And it's about to get even more intriguing. We're going to move into a period where those mischievous aspects of Halloween, the pranks and trickery, really come to the forefront.
Speaking of trickery, did you know that our jack-o'-lantern tradition, those iconic carved pumpkins, originally started with turnips?
Yeah, it's all connected to the legend of Stingy Jack, this mischievous figure in Irish folklore who managed to trick the devil not once, but twice.
I'm all ears. What happened to Stingy Jack?
Well, despite tricking the devil, it didn't end well for Jack. When he died, he was denied entry to both heaven and hell. He was condemned to roam the earth with only a burning coal inside a carved-out turnip to light his way.
That's where the jack-o'-lantern comes from.
Exactly.
People carving turnips to ward off Stingy Jack's wandering spirit.
Exactly. It's a fascinating example of how folklore and superstition become intertwined with our traditions. Now imagine those early jack-o'-lanterns, those dimly lit turnips dotting the landscape on Halloween night. It must have been quite a sight.
And probably more than a little eerie. But it sounds like Halloween was becoming even more associated with pranks and mischief as time went on. Wasn't there a point when people started to question whether the holiday should be allowed to continue?
You're right. As Halloween traditions continued to evolve, pranks became increasingly popular. While some were harmless fun, others escalated into vandalism, especially as more people moved into cities in the 1920s and 30s.
I can imagine that didn't go over well with everyone. Property damage isn't exactly in the spirit of Halloween fun.
It caused a real dilemma. There were serious calls to ban Halloween altogether because of the escalating trouble it was causing.
That's incredible. Halloween almost went extinct because of some out-of-control pranks.
It was a real turning point. Something had to change if Halloween was going to survive. And that's where we'll pick up the story in part 2. How did Halloween go from the brink of being banned to the massive celebration we know and love today? So welcome back to our deep dive into the fascinating history of Halloween.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to think that this beloved holiday,
Hmm.
which we associate with so much fun and festivities, was once on the verge of being shut down completely.
Yeah, it just goes to show you that even our most cherished traditions have faced challenges and undergone some serious transformations throughout history.
Yeah.
As we were discussing before, the escalating pranks and vandalism associated with Halloween in the early 20th century created quite a predicament for communities.
So how did Halloween manage to escape the chopping block? Did communities simply crack down on the pranksters and try to enforce stricter rules?
Well, while some certainly considered that approach, a more ingenious solution kind of emerged. Instead of punishing the mischief, they decided to try to harness it to redirect that kind of youthful energy into something more organized and less destructive.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about this brilliant save.
It all boils down to adaptation,
Yeah.
a theme that we see repeatedly throughout Halloween's history. Communities began to actively promote the idea of organized Halloween festivities. They encouraged homeowners to host parties and provide treats for children. This shift was in part spurred by the hardships of the Great Depression. Many families simply couldn't afford elaborate celebrations on their own.
So it became a community effort to keep the spirit of Halloween alive, to provide a safe and enjoyable experience for everyone.
Precisely. Neighbors pooled their resources, offering simple costumes, spooky walks through decorated basements, and of course, treats.
Wow.
It was this house-to-house party concept that gradually evolved into the trick-or-treating tradition we know and love today.
Yeah, it's remarkable how a solution born out of economic hardship actually helped shape one of Halloween's most iconic rituals.
It really is. It's a testament to the resilience and creativity of communities in finding ways to preserve traditions even in the face of adversity. And the best part, it worked.
Yeah.
Reports of Halloween-related trouble, vandalism, and fires saw a significant decrease as trick-or-treating gained popularity.
Talk about a win-win. Everyone got to enjoy the fun of Halloween, and communities saw a reduction in the chaos that had been plaguing the holiday. But I'm guessing World War II brought its own set of challenges to Halloween celebrations.
You're absolutely right. With rationing in effect and the anxieties of wartime weighing heavily on everyone's minds, Halloween celebrations were understandably more subdued during those years.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine getting into the Halloween spirit when the world is facing such uncertainty and hardship. But I bet once the war ended, Halloween came roaring back with a vengeance.
You bet it did. The post-war era saw Halloween's popularity explode. And this surge had a lot to do with the rise of a powerful new medium, television.
Television. I can see how that would have a major impact on how people viewed and celebrated Halloween.
Yeah, television played an enormous role in shaping the modern Halloween experience. Popular sitcoms of the era, like The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, started incorporating Halloween episodes into their seasons. It was a way to tap into the excitement of the holiday and connect with audiences on a familiar, lighthearted level.
I can just picture those classic black and white sitcom families navigating all sorts of Halloween hijinks.
Exactly. And let's not forget the influence of another entertainment giant, Disney.
Uh-huh.
Remember the iconic Donald Duck cartoon Trick or Treat released in 1952?
Of course. How could I forget that one?
Well, that cartoon played a significant role in further popularizing trick-or-treating rituals for a whole new generation of children. It cemented the imagery and the steps involved, dressing up in costumes, going door to door, and of course, receiving those coveted treats.
So we've gone from ancient Celtic rituals to medieval soul cakes to post-war sitcoms and Disney cartoons. What a journey Halloween has been on. But it feels like there's still more to uncover. What about that shift toward more adult-oriented Halloween celebrations? When did that start to take hold?
That's a really interesting evolution, and it really took off in the 1960s and 70s. There were several factors that contributed to this shift. One of the biggest was the rise of counterculture movements, which challenged traditional societal norms and embraced individuality and self-expression.
So Halloween, with its costumes and masks, became a way to play with identity, to explore different sides of yourself, to push those boundaries a bit.
Exactly. The anonymity that costumes and masks provided created a space for experimentation and liberation, particularly for those who felt marginalized or constrained by societal expectations.
And this is where those iconic Halloween parades enter the scene, right?
You got it. The Greenwich Village Halloween Parade in New York City became a symbol of this shift. It started as a small local event and blossomed into this massive celebration of self-expression, attracting millions of participants and spectators. It became especially significant for the LGBTQ+ community, providing a visible platform for self-affirmation and community building.
It's amazing how Halloween, with its inherent themes of transgression and playfulness, became a vehicle for social change and self-discovery.
Absolutely. And as Halloween's appeal for adults continued to grow, so did the business opportunities surrounding the holiday. Remember how candy companies revolutionized trick-or-treating by replacing homemade treats with mass-produced candy?
Yes, it was a brilliant marketing move that changed the landscape of Halloween forever.
Well, a similar thing happened with costumes. Costume companies started mass-producing costumes for both children and adults, offering a wide array of options that went far beyond the simple DIY creations of the past.
So while Halloween became more commercialized, it also became more accessible.
Yeah,
People could easily participate in the fun and express themselves in new and exciting ways.
that's a great point. Commercialization isn't always a negative thing. In the case of Halloween, it contributed to the holiday's wider reach and allowed more people to join in the festivities.
Okay, I have to ask, where does Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, fit into all of this?
Elvira. She's a
Uh-huh.
true Halloween icon, perfectly embodying that playful, seductive, and slightly spooky vibe that defines adult Halloween celebrations.
She's the ultimate Halloween queen, in my opinion.
She emerged in the 1980s with her late-night horror movie show and quickly became a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Her sharp wit, gothic glamour, and undeniable charisma made her a beloved figure, especially within the LGBTQ+ community.
And she wasn't just a TV personality, she was a savvy businesswoman, too. Wasn't she the face of Coors Light for a while?
You're absolutely right. Coors Light cleverly capitalized on Elvira's popularity to market their beer to the adult Halloween demographic. It was a wildly successful campaign and further solidified Halloween's status as a major adult holiday.
It's fascinating how Elvira, who found solace and self-expression in Halloween as a child, ended up playing such a pivotal role in shaping its evolution into the diverse and commercially successful celebration it is today.
It's a reminder that individuals can have a profound impact on the cultural landscape, especially when they tap into something that resonates deeply with people. But while Elvira brought the campy fun, another force was solidifying Halloween's connection to a more primal emotion, fear.
I think I know where you're going with this John Carpenter's iconic film, Halloween.
Precisely. Released in 1978, Halloween was a game changer, both commercially and for the horror genre itself. It became the highest-grossing independent film at the time, and its impact is still felt today.
And it wasn't just about the scares themselves. The fact that the film was set on Halloween night, using the holiday as a backdrop for terror, amplified its effect.
Absolutely. It cemented Halloween's association with horror and suspense, paving the way for countless other Halloween-themed horror films. The holiday became a time to confront our fears, to explore the dark side of human nature, and to get that adrenaline rush from a good scare.
So through a mix of cultural shifts, savvy marketing, iconic figures like Elvira, and groundbreaking films like Halloween, the holiday transformed into this multifaceted celebration we know today, embracing everything from lighthearted fun to spine-chilling horror.
And as we enter the 21st century, Halloween's journey takes another fascinating turn. It goes global.
Wait, Halloween is spreading beyond the U.S. That's incredible.
It's true. Thanks to the global reach of American media, particularly television shows like The Simpsons with their annual Halloween specials, Halloween is gaining traction in unexpected places like China, Russia, and even parts of the Southern
I
Hemisphere.
guess you can't escape the allure of costumes, candy, and a good scare no matter where you are in the world.
It seems that way Halloween's enduring appeal lies in its ability to tap into our primal fears, our fascination with the unknown, and our desire to play with the boundaries between reality and fantasy.
Wow, who knew Halloween had such a rich and complex history? We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. It's been fascinating to trace its evolution from ancient rituals to modern-day celebrations.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you, but our journey isn't over yet. In part 3, we'll delve into some final thoughts about Halloween's enduring legacy and perhaps offer some spooky recommendations for our listeners.
Welcome back to our Halloween deep dive.
It's amazing, isn't it, to think about how we've gone from ancient rituals to a global phenomenon.
Yeah, it really is. And it's got me thinking, as we wrap up this exploration, what stands out to you as the biggest takeaway from all this Halloween history?
I think what fascinates me most is how Halloween has always been about change, blending those old traditions with new influences.
Yeah.
It's a real testament to that human desire to hold on to the past while also embracing the present.
That's so true. And it makes me think that Halloween almost has this incredible ability to reinvent itself constantly, but somehow still staying true to its core essence.
Yeah, and that adaptability you're talking about, I think, is precisely why Halloween continues to resonate with people of all ages and across cultures.
Absolutely. And I also find it intriguing how Halloween gives us this really unique way to confront our fears,
Right.
but in this playful, almost cathartic way.
Yeah.
Whether we're dressing up as something scary, watching a horror movie, or just enjoying the spooky ambiance, it's like we're giving ourselves permission to explore that darker side of human nature.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's like a collective exhale in a way to acknowledge the things that frighten us and then kind of laugh in their face.
I love that. And that brings us back to you, our listener.
Yeah.
This Halloween, is you're carving your pumpkins, picking out your costume, or maybe even braving a scary movie marathon, just take a moment to think about the incredible journey this holiday has taken.
From those ancient Celts trying to ward off fairies to our modern day embrace of, figures like Elvira Halloween has always been a celebration of the unknown, the mysterious, those things that go bump in the night.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, we'd love for you to consider, what does Halloween mean to you?
Yeah.
What parts of this rich history resonate most deeply with you?
Maybe it'll inspire you to explore some Celtic folklore or learn more about the evolution of trick-or-treating or just, reflect on the ways that Halloween has shaped your own life and your own memories.
And of course, if you're hungry for more deep dives into fascinating topics like this, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive. We'll take that stack of sources you've been meaning to get to and transform it into a treasure trove of knowledge, all delivered with a touch of wit and a dash of wonder.
Until next time, happy haunting.